Hello everyone, welcome to Ignition. In today's video I'm going to show you how to cut and polish your car's paintwork. Right, so you join me next to my 2003 Mitsubishi L200. Now this thing I would say has been through the wars. It's got scratches all over it, little dings and dents everywhere. Obviously I won't be able to fix the dents today, but I am going to go through exactly what I'm going to, sort of the procedures and what I'm going to do to remove the light swirl scratches and the slightly heavier embedded scratches. Now this is going to be an easy sort of video for you to follow, just the basics on how to get your car detailed and making it look really nice really easily. So all this is just time consuming, that's all it is, but the method I'm going to show you today is actually very simple and it's also quite inexpensive. Okay, so I'm going to start off by showing you exactly what you need. Starting off with the machine, this is the dual action polisher, it's a Rupees Bigfoot. Now this is at the high end of the polishing market, this is quite an expensive piece, but if you're just going to be doing it occasionally at the weekends and you don't want to dive in straight in and get a really expensive one, you can pick up like the base model Rupees for 150 pounds, and then I'm sure online you could find cheaper ones somewhere else. So the polisher, once you've sorted that, make sure you've got some foam pieces. I tend to just choose a medium softness on the pads. It's not aggressive, don't use a massively aggressive one. So once you've got your polisher sorted out and your pad, you just want to make sure you've got some clay bar. So I'll show you exactly what the clay bar does in a minute when I start on the vehicle, but I'm just using Geon mild clay. I find this really easy to work with, it manipulates quite easily and it's lasted me quite a long time. This has been 3 cars already and I still have probably a third left of that. So make sure you've got your clay barring and your soapy water. So moving on to compounds. Now compounds, they can be very confusing. All over the internet there are millions of different compounds, but what it boils down to is how aggressive the compound is. So of course the more aggressive compound you move on to, the more clear coat you're going to be taking off. Now personally, I don't have a clear coat measurer, so you can buy a machine that you can put it against the paint and it will measure the clear coat thickness. I do not have that. So I like to just mainly play it safe by sticking to the sort of the finer end so you don't take off too much clear coat, just to be safe. So this is the Rupees Bigfoot. This is what came with the polisher. So this is the fine cutting compound. I tend to work with this the most. So then we move to this Meguiars Ultimate compound. So this is a ready-made compound for you to use, and of course it's going to be fairly safe on your car because Meguiars have sort of made this to be a good all-round compound. So I tend to say if you're doing this for the first time and you don't really know that much about it, stick with a fine pad and stick with a fine compound. If you can find one, Meguiars Ultimate Compound is personally, I think, the best one for a beginner because you can't go wrong, you can't cut too much off, and you obviously can't, you know, it's going to leave you a fairly nice finish. But the only thing is with Meguiars is if you have a really deep scratch, you need to obviously go down the route of Rupees and you'd have to find the coarse one, which is here. But if you go to coarse, you have to be careful, you have to make sure that you don't go crazy, because if you start using really rough stuff, of course you can take off too much clear coat, which is not what we want. So for the purpose of this beginner's video, I'm going to be sticking with Meguiars Ultimate Compound because I do think this is the best one. So now we've found our compound, we need to find a polish. Now polishes, there's also millions, I'm sure most of them are fairly similar. But polish, I'm using Muck Off. This is the Miracle Shine. I tend to find that this one works really well on paints. I do believe this is a motorbike or push bike polish, but I do think this is my favourite one to work with at the moment. Not only does it work really well on the paint and leave a lovely sort of popping finish, it also smells fantastic. I know that sounds stupid, but it does smell really nice and it's lovely to work with. So I'm going to be using, like I say, Muck Off Miracle Shine. And then once you've cut and polished your paint, you don't want to leave it out in the elements, you need to protect it. So what I'll be using is an auto glim. This is extra gloss protection, so this is basically a paint sealant. And what this does is once you've finished cutting and polishing, you wipe this over the surface, it hazes up and leaves like a cloudy finish on the paint. Then you wait 30 minutes and buff it off. And what it does is it creates almost like a glass-like finish over the top of your work that you've done. So I highly recommend this product right here, as it's always worked for me. So now I've gone through the basics of our procedure. Let's head over to the roof and I will mask up a square and we'll do a little test. Okay, so you join me on top of the truck here. Now, as you can see, I don't know if you can see from this angle, but it actually looks okay on the camera. But this is a horrible surface, the worst on the truck. And if you listen to this, it's like sandpaper. So what I'm going to do is clay bar an area here, then I'll dry it off and I will tape up that area, and we will cut it with Meguiars Ultimate Compound. And then once I've done 2 passes or so, we'll peel off the tape and we'll compare the cut surface to the original surface. So let's crack on by clay barring our surface. So you want to wet the clay and you also want to wet the surface really. The more water and soap you have on here, the better. So I don't know if you can hear that, but look at the dirt that's already picking up. This is the worst surface, like I say, of the vehicle. And what I'll do is just simply wipe that off with a clean microfiber towel. And the way you know if you've clay barred it correctly is when you rub your finger, you should instantly feel it being smoother. Now this is like glass, so that is a good start. Now what I'll do is let this air dry, and once it's completely dry, I'll tape up my square. Okay, now the surface is dry. I'm just going to make myself a nice, relatively big square. Okay, now our square is taped off and it's been clay barred, which is lovely and smooth. So when you've got a new pad or you've washed your pad and you're using it again, when you start off you need to really prime the pad nicely. So what I do is I tend to do 3 nice dots, massage them in, and then redo 3 more fresh dots and then use it. So you just need to put a bit in the pad to prime it up. And then I'll just do 3 more dots, like so, and there we are done. So now I'll put the pad on the polisher, get it in the middle. There we go, give that a nice push, the Velcro keeps it in place. And now what I'm going to do is start on speed number 1. I'm just going to dab it on, and make sure that I've got a nice bit of coverage. As you can see, a nice little bit of coverage. And now I'm going to start on speed 1, make sure it's all blended in and covered, and then move it up to speed 4 or 5. Okay, so now you can see it's all blended in. And when we move up to speed 4 or 5, what we're going to want to do is work in a snake-like motion. We want to go up and down, crossing over our pattern halfway, so we get a nice thick and there's no gaps. So we just want to go up, down, up, down, up, down. Then once you've done a pass that way, then go across, down, like that. So just snaking back and front. So what we'll do is we'll go on speed 1 and then turn it up to speed 5. Now, get a lovely clean microfiber and just buff that off. There we are, there is our polished section. So I'll move the camera in a bit closer and we'll peel the tape off. Okay, so with one simple pass, look at the difference. We have swirl, scratches and haziness to absolutely perfect paint. I mean, there are some very, very slight, you can see that scratch here, ever so slightly deeper imperfections, but if you want to go a little bit more crazy, you can, but I suggest that you do your research and you also get a clearcoat scanning device, because this is a very safe and easy way of making your car look absolutely fantastic. So you can see the difference that this Meguiars Ultimate Compound has done. It's absolutely fantastic. It looks like new paint. So what I'll do now is I will complete this whole section, and I will also go over exactly like we did with the cutting compound but with the polish, and then I'll show you what it looks like. And I've got to say that this looks amazing. So I've cut and polished it now. I did 2 passes per section, so I did 2 passes like that and that on cutting and polishing all over the whole roof. And now it's time to apply our sealant, because I don't want to get this damaged. You need to get your sealant. Like I say, I'm using Auto Glim and an applicator microfiber. So I'm just going to put that all over the microfiber. It's quite liquidized, I suppose is the word. And then all I'm going to do is simply rub it in sections. Now this should almost do me for the whole roof, as this stuff goes a long way. Okay, so I will leave that to dry for 30 minutes and then we'll be back with the final result shots. Okay, so it's been 30 minutes and I'm just going to buff off this layer of paint protection. A good bit of elbow grease here. So just flip the microfiber and have one last buff. And my goodness, that's a difference. Okay, these results are absolutely crazy. It's completely glass-like now, completely glass-like, and I genuinely didn't believe it was going to come up this good. So the roof came up absolutely brilliantly. As you can see, it's like sheet glass. Now that the roof's looking so good, I've got to do the rest of the car. It's currently the next day. My back is aching. I've been at this for about, I'd say over the course of the weekend, probably about 12 hours. It's a big vehicle. It's 5 and a bit meters long. It's just a massive vehicle to do. But if you look at it, I mean, it is absolutely spotless. I could do my hair in this. Like, it is like a mirror. I could take a picture in it. It's glass-like, and I'm so impressed with one, how the Meguiars compound's done, because I thought this was a little bit too far gone for the Meguiars, but it's done absolutely incredibly. And you can see with the right tools, a simple polisher and the ultimate cutting compound, or any sort of fine cutting compound, and some good polish, you can get it to look brand new again, because this truck, I can tell you now, has not been driven lightly. I've drifted it, gone through puddles, it's had so much mud flicked over it in the last year or two. It's absolutely ridiculous. So I'm amazed how it's done. So hopefully you've learned something from this video. It really is that easy to correct the paint on your vehicle. You can do it at home. Just make sure you get a bit of shelter and try not to leave it too long between doing the cutting and the polishing, because you don't want any dirt on the paint. But other than that, it really is as easy as it looks, just polishing. The hardest part about it is my back. I can tell you, I feel like I'm about 70 years old right now. So like I say, if you are on the older age trying to do this, make sure you give yourself plenty of breaks, because I can tell you it's a back killer. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope you've learned a little something from this. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.